Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso and the youngest president in the world, has demanded the immediate release of Simon Ekpa, who is detained at Kylmäkoski Correctional Center in Finland. On April the 28th, 2025, Ibrahim Traoré's representatives traveled to Helsinki, Finland, and visited the Burkina Faso embassy to negotiate Simon Ekpa's release. In their meeting with Finnish officials, they threatened to cut economic and trade relations with Finland if Simon Ekpa is not released. The Finnish government responded by listing 5 bail conditions Simon Ekpa must meet. However, Simon Ekpa's lawyer has agreed to 3 conditions so far. A key condition includes publicly calling off the Monday sit-at-home protest observed in southeastern Nigeria, which Simon Ekpa is allegedly influencing. Finnish authorities insist Simon Ekpa must accept at least 4 out of the 5 conditions before bail is considered. Simon Ekpa is reportedly willing to call off the sit-at-home protest, which has caused unrest and disrupted daily life. However, Dr. Ngozi Orubueze, Deputy Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, opposes this move, asserting Simon Ekpa cannot control the people's resolution. Biafra leaders emphasize the sit-at-home is a self-determined action tied to a 2024 referendum, not under Simon Ekpa or any leader's control. Meanwhile, Simon Ekpa's health is deteriorating, reportedly due to a severe heart condition, and he was recently moved to a medical facility for treatment. A dramatic diplomatic standoff has been unfolding between the West African nation of Burkina Faso and the Nordic country of Finland. At the center of this tense international situation is the controversial figure Simon Ekpa, a Nigerian-Finnish political activist currently detained at the Kylmäkoski Correctional Center in Finland. What began as a local legal issue has now ballooned into a potential diplomatic crisis, drawing in presidents, diplomats, legal experts, and political movements across continents. The president of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traoré, who is widely recognized as the youngest sitting head of state in the world, has made bold moves to demand Simon Ekpa's release, going as far as threatening to sever economic and trade relations with Finland if his request is not met. To fully grasp the gravity of this situation, we need to look at the major players, the broader context of the events, and the political tensions swirling around this case. In this narrative, I will walk you through all the details, explain the backstory, examine the legal and diplomatic angles, and discuss the broader implications of what this development might mean both for Africa and Europe, all in simple language and a personal, thoughtful tone. Let us start with Ibrahim Traoré. Ibrahim Traoré is the current president of Burkina Faso, a country in West Africa. He rose to power in 2022 following a military coup and quickly gained attention for being not only a military leader, but also the youngest president in the world. Despite his controversial rise to power, Ibrahim Traoré has maintained a strong nationalist stance and has frequently spoken out against foreign interference in African affairs. His position on the Simon Ekpa case is seen as an extension of that ideology. He appears to be using this case as a way to assert African sovereignty and to stand in solidarity with other African figures who, in his view, are being unfairly treated by foreign governments. Simon Ekpa, on the other hand, is a dual national, both Nigerian and Finnish. He has been one of the most vocal and divisive figures in the movement for the independence of Biafra, a region in southeastern Nigeria. Simon Ekpa has gained a large following online, mostly through social media, where he promotes civil disobedience campaigns, including the now infamous Monday sit-at-home protests. These protests have led to weekly shutdowns in southeastern Nigeria as part of a broader movement seeking to revive the push for Biafra's independence. These actions have been both praised and criticized, praised by some who support Biafra's independence and condemned by others who see the disruptions as harmful to everyday life and economic activity. Simon Ekpa's arrest in Finland drew widespread attention, not just because of his political activities, but also because of the international angle. He was detained at the Kilamäkoski Correctional Center, a prison in Finland, and his case has become more than just a domestic legal matter for Finnish authorities. It has taken on diplomatic dimensions, especially after the involvement of Burkina Faso. On April 28, 2025, a significant development occurred. Representatives of President Ibrahim Traoré traveled to Helsinki, Finland's capital, with a clear and urgent mission to demand the release of Simon Ekpa. These officials went directly to the Burkina Faso embassy in Helsinki and then held meetings with Finnish politicians and legal authorities. During these meetings, the delegation made it clear that Burkina Faso is willing to take drastic steps, including ending economic and trade relations with Finland, if Simon Ekpa is not released from detention. This threat was not taken lightly. While Burkina Faso may not be one of Finland's largest trading partners, the country does have economic engagements with Finland that include investments and trade in goods and services. In fact, data from the year 2024 shows that Burkina Faso sent millions, possibly even billions of dollars into the Finnish economy through trade transactions. These include imports of machinery, education services, and various professional services. The Burkina Faso government highlighted these figures in its meetings with Finnish authorities, making it clear that Finland stands to lose a lot economically if relations sour. In response to this pressure, the Finnish authorities outlined a set of 5 conditions that Simon Ekpa must meet in order to be granted bail. These conditions are legally binding and are meant to ensure that Simon Ekpa does not continue activities that the Finnish government sees as potentially destabilizing or in violation of the law. Simon Ekpa's legal team, led by a lawyer named Carl Gomez, has reportedly accepted 3 of these 5 bail conditions. However, Finnish officials insist that at least 4 of the conditions must be met before Simon Ekpa can be considered for bail. Among the most contentious of these conditions is one that demands Simon Ekpa publicly call off the Monday sit-at-home protests in southeastern Nigeria. This condition is particularly delicate as it touches on the political and emotional heart of the Biafran independence movement. Reports suggest that Simon Ekpa may be willing to comply with this particular condition. He has apparently recognized that the sit-at-home protests, while intended as acts of civil resistance, have caused significant disruption and hardship for ordinary citizens in southeastern Nigeria. Schools, hospitals, markets, and transport systems have all been affected, and this weekly shutdown has had a negative impact on the region's economy and daily life. Moreover, the Finnish authorities believe that continuing such activities from within their jurisdiction could implicate Finland in foreign unrest, something the government would prefer to avoid. But not everyone is on board with Simon Ekpa potentially ending the protests. One of the strongest voices in opposition to this move comes from Dr. Ngozi Orebweze, the Deputy Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, a self-proclaimed government in exile seeking international recognition. Dr. Ngozi Orebweze has spoken out firmly against any decision by Simon Ekpa to halt the Monday protests. According to her, the sit-at-home protests are not under Simon Ekpa's control alone, but are rather a decision made collectively by the Biafran people, based on a self-determination referendum held in November 2024. In that referendum, she claims, over 50 million people voted to support the creation of the United States of Biafra, and the Monday sit-at-home was part of the larger plan to assert their autonomy. In her view, no individual leader, including Simon Ekpa or even Nnamdi Kanu, the founder of the modern Biafran movement, can unilaterally call off the protests. The protests, she insists, are an expression of the people's will and must continue as long as they see fit. This disagreement has introduced internal division within the Biafran movement. It also complicates Simon Ekpa's legal defense, because agreeing to Finland's conditions might be seen as betraying his supporters, while refusing the conditions might mean continued imprisonment. Meanwhile, Simon Ekpa's health has become a growing concern. According to multiple reports, his health has been declining steadily since his detention. He is said to be suffering from a severe heart condition that has required medical attention. Recently, Simon Ekpa was reportedly moved from the Kylmäkoski Correctional Center to an external medical facility within the same region for treatment. Finnish authorities have not made many public statements about his medical status, but sources close to the situation say he was transported discreetly by ambulance and is receiving specialized care. This medical vulnerability adds urgency to the negotiations over his bail. Despite his health issues and the legal complications, Simon Ekpa's case continues to be politically charged and closely monitored. The fact that a head of state, President Ibrahim Traoré, is personally intervening in the matter speaks to how much political weight this case now carries. It is unusual for a president to directly threaten economic sanctions over the detention of a foreign national, especially one not from his own country. But Ibrahim Traoré seems to be using this case to send a broader message that Africa will no longer tolerate what some perceive as the mistreatment of its people abroad, especially when it involves politically motivated detentions. Over the next few days, the representatives from Burkina Faso are expected to remain in Finland, continuing their discussions with Finnish officials. Their goal is to find a diplomatic solution that satisfies both sides while securing Simon Ekpa's release. There may be further negotiations involving Finnish media, in which Simon Ekpa could make a public statement calling for the end of the Monday sit-at-home protest as a gesture to fulfill the bail conditions. As we watch this story unfold, several key questions remain. Will Simon Ekpa ultimately agree to the fourth bail condition and call off the protest? Will the people of southeastern Nigeria respect such a decision if he makes it? Will Finland compromise in any way, or will they hold firm to their legal process? And if no agreement is reached, will Burkina Faso actually follow through with its threat to cut economic ties? This story is a perfect example of how one person's actions, when linked to broader political movements and international tensions, can ripple across continents. It is a powerful reminder of the complex web of diplomacy, activism, and legal responsibility that shapes today's world. Whether you are following this as a political observer, a supporter of human rights, or simply someone trying to make sense of global events, the situation surrounding Simon Ekpa, Ibrahim Traoré, and the governments of Finland and Burkina Faso is one that deserves close attention. What's becoming clear is that this situation is no longer just about one man in detention. Simon Ekpa has become a symbol of a much larger struggle, one that reaches across continents and pulls in deeply rooted political histories. His case touches on issues like freedom of speech, the legitimacy of political activism in diaspora communities, the independence aspirations of the Biafra movement, and how far governments will go to protect their national interests abroad. Let's return for a moment to President Ibrahim Traoré's role in all of this. Why would the leader of Burkina Faso get so directly involved in the legal case of a Nigerian Finnish activist who has no formal ties to Burkina Faso? That question has raised eyebrows across diplomatic circles. Some analysts believe Ibrahim Traoré sees Simon Ekpa as a political ally in a broader Pan-Africanist movement. Ibrahim Traoré has, since taking power, been positioning himself as a new voice for African resistance against neo-colonialism. He has repeatedly criticized Western governments for what he calls exploitative policies and political meddling in African countries. By standing up for Simon Ekpa, who is perceived by his supporters as a revolutionary fighting for self-determination, Ibrahim Traoré may be trying to cement his position as a leading figure in what he envisions as a new era of African sovereignty and solidarity. There's also speculation that Ibrahim Traoré is sending a message to other African leaders and European governments alike. Africa will no longer stay silent when its citizens or allies are mistreated, especially abroad. Whether or not one agrees with this position, it is a bold stance that reflects growing frustrations in many African countries over how African nationals are treated in foreign legal systems, sometimes without what is perceived as due consideration of cultural or political context. As for Finland, the government there is in a difficult position. Finnish authorities pride themselves on the rule of law, a transparent judicial process, and a commitment to human rights. These are core pillars of Finnish democracy. From their perspective, Simon Ekpa's detention and trial are not political. They are a matter of law. He is accused of actions that may have violated Finnish laws, particularly those relating to incitement and foreign agitation. Finnish courts are known for their independence, and the government likely wants to avoid any appearance that foreign pressure can influence their judiciary. However, Finland also understands that this case has grown into an international controversy. The threat from Burkina Faso to sever economic ties has put pressure on the Finnish Foreign Ministry to find a diplomatic solution without undermining its own legal process. That is likely why the court issued 5 bail conditions rather than rejecting bail outright. It is a legal middle ground, allowing Simon Ekpa the opportunity to prove that he is willing to act responsibly if released. Among these conditions, the requirement for Simon Ekpa to publicly call off the Monday sit-at-home protest has become the main sticking point. This condition is symbolic. It represents whether or not Simon Ekpa is still actively influencing events in Nigeria from Finnish soil. By asking him to renounce the protest publicly, Finnish authorities are trying to draw a clear line between lawful political activism and actions they view as potentially inciting unrest. The sit-at-home protest itself is deeply controversial. Supporters argue that it is a peaceful expression of political will by the people of southeastern Nigeria, tied to their aspirations for independence and recognition as the United States of Biafra. Critics argue that the protest has caused harm to ordinary citizens and disrupted essential services, while also creating a security vacuum exploited by criminal groups. This brings us back to the internal tensions within the Biafra movement. Dr. Ngozi Orabueze, Deputy Prime Minister of the self-declared United States of Biafra, has taken a firm stance against Simon Ekpa's potential decision to call off the protest. In a strongly worded tweet, she declared that the sit-at-home protest is not controlled by any single person, including Simon Ekpa or Nnamdi Kanu, but is instead a reflection of the collective decision of the people who voted in a November 2024 referendum. She is not alone in this position. Many in the pro-Biafra community argue that leaders like Simon Ekpa serve as voices, not rulers. Their authority comes from the people's support, and any attempt to cancel a grassroots protest without the consent of those on the ground would be seen as an overstep. There is a strong belief among these supporters that even if Simon Ekpa does go on television in Finland and asks people to return to work on Mondays, the people in southeastern Nigeria may simply ignore him and continue the protest. That possibility raises real questions about leadership and legitimacy within the Biafra independence movement. This entire situation has also put Simon Ekpa's legal team in a delicate position. Carl Gomez, his lawyer, is trying to balance Simon's legal safety with his political principles. Accepting the Finnish court's conditions may help Simon Ekpa gain release and access better medical care, which he urgently needs due to his heart condition. But it could also damage his credibility with his base, many of whom see him as a steadfast leader who should not be seen compromising under foreign pressure. On the medical front, Simon Ekpa's condition remains a cause for concern. Details about his health have been closely guarded by authorities, but insiders say he is suffering from a severe heart ailment. His transfer to a medical facility outside the prison confirms that his condition has reached a critical stage. His supporters argue that continued detention under these circumstances could become a human rights issue. They are calling on humanitarian organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, to intervene or at least monitor the situation. Meanwhile, Burkina Faso's delegation remains in Finland. The officials sent by Ibrahim Traoré are expected to meet again with Finnish diplomats and possibly members of the Finnish parliament. Their goal is to keep the conversation alive and find a diplomatic path forward. Sources close to the delegation say they are also reaching out to African communities in Finland, trying to build public support and generate media attention around the issue. Back in Africa, this story is being closely followed. In Nigeria, reactions are mixed. Some in the Nigerian government are uncomfortable with the idea of a foreign country interfering in matters related to Nigeria's internal security. Others, especially in the southeast, see Ibrahim Traoré as a hero for defending what they view as a legitimate freedom fighter. In Burkina Faso, national media have framed the move as a bold defense of African dignity and a warning against Western overreach. So what happens next? Several scenarios are on the table. If Simon Ekpa agrees to 4 of the 5 bail conditions, including calling off the sit-at-home protest, he could be released on bail. That would likely ease tensions with Burkina Faso and offer Finland a way to de-escalate the situation without compromising its legal standards. If Simon Ekpa refuses to meet the 4th condition, he may remain in detention. This would likely inflame tensions with Burkina Faso and deepen divisions within the Biafra movement. It might also prompt other African leaders to take similar stands, creating a ripple effect in Europe's diplomatic relations with African states. There is also the possibility of a third path, a negotiated solution that rephrases the protest condition in a way that allows Simon Ekpa to save face without openly betraying his political stance. For example, he could issue a general appeal for peace and safety in Nigeria without directly telling people to end the sit-at-home protest. This kind of compromise might satisfy Finnish legal authorities while avoiding further backlash from his supporters. This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.